Wonderful. We are live. Excellent. I believe we have one viewer waiting. Feel free to chuck a comment in the chat to let me know if you have any comments and questions. As you can see, I have the film Baby Driver lined up here, which we're going to take a look at in a second. And we're going to wait for the last couple of minutes to see who else is going to come on the live today. Okay, here goes. Okay, let's see. Let me just make sure all of my settings are ready so we can enjoy this analysis together.
Hey, what's going on? So this year...
All right. So it's good to have a couple of you on board today. Don't forget to chuck a comment in the comments section if you have any questions on Baby Driver, anything burning for you as you've watched the film. Hopefully you've watched the film before, so if you haven't, there's definitely going to be spoilers today. We are going to be scrubbing across the entire movie, but if you want me to specifically look at an area of the film directly, do let me know and I will absolutely take a look at it for you. And we are going to start in the next 2 minutes, fingers crossed. And we'll see how many more people we can get in and on for this live analysis. Oh, and you've got 2 minutes. Grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever tickles your fancy, and get ready, relax, let's have a nice time. Okay. Wonderful. For those of you who haven't joined me before, my name is Rob Macfarlane and I analyse your favourite film and TV to tell you guys just why the filmmakers do it. So today we are taking a look at Baby Driver, a film directed by Edgar Wright back in, I think it was 2017 now. It's been a while. And well, a little history on the movie. Edgar Wright had actually been working on this film for, I think, almost 20 years. He got the idea when he was doing a music video back in the day, before he started making TV, before he did even Shaun of the Dead. And he loved the idea of a bank robbery done to a track, done to music, timed and paced out so everything landed on the beats, landed on the crescendos and choruses of the music. So that spawned the idea, and thus he spent the next 20 odd years trying to work out how something like that would actually work. And well, he made Baby Driver, which, you know, it did pretty well. I think it made about 270 million at the box office, won him a few awards, certainly won some editing awards, I believe, and a lot of nominations for things, because it's a pretty good movie. So yeah, if anyone has any thoughts, what they thought of it when they watched the movie, chuck it in the chat. I'd love to see. And we can start this analysis now. So I've got us in right at the beginning of the film, and there's a good reason for that, because today we're going to take a look at exactly how Edgar Wright has used colours and tonality, especially in what the protagonist wears, to show his current moral compass at that time. So how his clothes actually denote the type of character he is. What does he believe? What does he feel? And what does he think of the other characters around him? So let's just take a quick look. Side note, I have to go back for 1 second because the intro for this is so good. I'm gonna make sure that this is something you guys can hear properly as well. Right, let's just go back. Okay, we start on black screen, which, I mean, all movies do, but there's a good reason for it, because before we see anything, we hear something. Oh, I mean, it's literally the concept for what Baby, the driver, has to live through day in and day out. That ringing tinnitus sound. Actually, it's something that I know a lot about. I've had tinnitus for about 8 years now, and it is absolutely something that you have to battle with your lifestyle to properly deal with it. So let's continue. Although there is now very heavy rain and a helicopter flying over, so I do apologise for the sound quality. I will do my best to make sure that I will talk over it as much as possible. But for the time being, here we go. So, right, our very first shot of the protagonist. We've just seen a very sporty looking vehicle come into frame, so we know this film is going to deal with fast cars. Cool, I think we got that probably from the trailer. And then we go over to his iPod, that's it, yeah, they're still around, his iPod, which is fantastic. Although a tricky thing there, it does actually date the movie. For most movies that deal with technology, it really has a habit of making the movie feel old very quickly. But in this case, it's got a lot more to do with the music being chosen than it does about technology of that era. So then our third shot, we see Baby, the driver, and we see that he is wearing a black and white jumper. Now, Edgar Wright actually stated that this movie is about moral corruption and the way in which we can be pushed to act outside of our moral compass. So I think that's something that we really need to keep in our mind's eye as we watch these clips. I am going to be scrubbing through the movie, and sometimes I will have to search for things, so I do apologise. And I also do apologise for the literal torrential downpour if you are hearing it. I think it's just there. It's just there at the bottom. So if you can hear it, I apologise. If you can't, don't worry about it. Anyway, so at this point in the movie, we meet Baby at a stage where he is morally ambiguous, but he sees the world as good and bad, not with a shade of grey in there. He hasn't found that... He hasn't found out that life isn't just good and bad yet. Also, we realise that, well, in a few shots, he's actually involved with a bank robbery. So let's check that out. Love this. Such a nice cut. I mean, it's very Edgar Wright. And I love this actor as well. But you'll see in a second that the 3 other members in the car are all wearing pretty much completely black. So their moral compass has been chosen, if you get what I mean. Second member. Third member. Just the music, man, it's so good. Actually, I I did a video on the music in Baby Driver and how Edgar Wright actually chose the music and developed the blocking, so the way the actors moved, where they moved, the way the camera moved, to be exactly in time with the music. So actually, when you watch this, do watch out. A lot of their actions are done to the beat of the music, which must have taken so long to get all the actors, the cars, the extras, everything that happens in the frame has something to do with the music that we are hearing over the top. And what's interesting here is this is non-diegetic music, which means it's music that is not present within the world. We are hearing it, but the characters are not. Yet the characters are in time with the music, which denotes really that we are kind of experiencing the world from Baby's perspective, because we've already seen that music is very important to him and he's got his earbuds in, so he's experiencing everyone else in time to him, not the other way around, if you get it. Yeah. Ugh. Nice. Cuts are on half beats and full beats. Just makes so much sense. Opens the door on the beat, and then, oh, love it so much. But that moment, this moment when those three robbers go into the bank, I mean, they're obviously robbers. I mean, we know what's about to happen. Baby stays in the car and he watches them leave, and as soon as they've entered the bank, he starts singing along to the track. To me, this immediately says two things. One, he's probably quite naive still, maybe doesn't really understand the impact of his actions. And two, he sees himself as bubbled off, separate, morally separate to their actions. He is just the driver, therefore he is not responsible for what they are doing. And that is another huge factor of this film, that he is separate. I mean, even what he's wearing makes him feel very separate to the others. His shades, his his hairdo, what he wears in his entire outfit, he's nowhere near as suave as the rest of the characters. It's just, he's a getaway driver singing to music in his car as he waits for bank robbers to finish their job. It's kind of surreal in a way, if you really think about it. If you pitch this to a movie producer, you know, I'm going to have a getaway driver and he loves to sing along to music before he gets away, but he's not involved with the bank robbery at all. You know, give me money. Probably wouldn't fly. So I do think it's probably important now that we skip on a little bit, because he stays in this attire for a little bit. And we see a little later, after a fantastic car chase through, I believe it's Atlanta. And that Atlanta was actually a really big choice for Edgar Wright, because he wanted to have a very musical surrounding. This scene here that we're seeing, he's off to go get coffee. If you look at the background and the foreground, he even uses the words that are being heard on his earphones in the world around him. Okay, move it to the right. Check over his shoulder on the right hand side of the screen, no less, the word right. I mean, the production designer must have had so much fun with this. Also, note, he is still in the same attire as he was in earlier, even though he's had a massive car chase and helicopter chase and all sorts of craziness. But he doesn't feel guilty for his actions. He's just the getaway driver. Morally, he's set himself aside from the actions of the robbers. whole lot of soul. Look at the pole. The pole is soul, obviously. I mean, even his steps to the music, the way other people were dancing and moving in the frame is to the music. They must have spent so much time in rehearsals. Yeah. Hang on. Let's just go back to appreciate this. The amount of planning to make sure that the tree with the words "Yeah, you do" was in frame at the time that the music was saying "Yeah, you do." And given that the tree is on screen for practically a second, that is some darn good planning. Oh, coffee time. Cheers. I mean, you get the point. There's a lot of really... You could just see that he had fun with this film. I mean, if there's anything that Edgar Wright movies say, it's he is having a blast telling these stories, and it really comes through. It just there's a joy to them. There's a brevity, there's a lightness to his filmmaking. And even when he gets very deep and emotional, we never feel it is taken us to a pit of despair. And that we can't drag ourselves out. Like some movies make you feel like you have to drag yourself out the cinema because you've had your emotions raked over hot coals for 2 hours. You don't get that from an Edgar Wright movie. You do feel like you've been to the cinema and you've had an experience and you've had the joy and also the despair of a story, of a complete story. And I think that's really quite important, especially now, given the times. The more brevity, the more enjoyment we can have from certain things in our lives, the better. But also while still telling a good story with an interesting story with a good moral compass. I think that's probably the right way of saying it. Anyway, so we digress. I got kind of sidetracked with this kind of really fun, awesome, kind of slightly jealous of this sequence. Oh, this is a great sequence. So this actor, love him. Again, he's in frame. You'll see actually throughout this movie, the character Baby is consistently challenged by the other men around him. So those men are men who are very macho in a way, and quite often they are wearing a solid colour, be it red, as we'll see later, or black in this case.
What's his deal?
Baby? Full cut, same as everyone.
Doc, I mean, is he, retarded?
Retarded means slow. Is he slow?
No.
You don't sound retarded to me. He's a good kid and devil behind the wheel. What the hell else more do you need to know?
I mean, this is actually very similar to the way John Wick presented John Wick. He, instead of the character saying who they are, I'm the best at this, other characters provide the legend, provide the scale to which they are seen by others. And I think that's even more powerful than when a character does it themselves. Although we have had a fantastic car chase at the beginning of the movie, we now have another character, someone who is obviously in charge, state that they are a devil behind the wheel. I mean, that's not a usual type of compliment. To say that someone is the devil behind the wheel. I mean, they're obviously pretty good behind the wheel and they could do anything. Anyway, we digress off of the topic. Sorry about that. I mean, let's digress here a little bit. You'll see, I'm going to skip on a little bit where he's actually challenged by this character. And this character comes up to him and really tries to get in his face, tries to work him up, because he can sense that he's separating himself from the others.
Are you a mute? No. So, what are you listening to? Music.
That's right. You tell him, baby.
For God's sakes, Griff, leave the kid alone.
You can't just be in crime, right? Not without being a little criminal. I just want to find out what's going on between those ears.
And that's it. That is like the metaphor for this film. He can't be in crime, but have one foot out. It's not like just because he's partially in it, he's innocent still. And that, I think, is what comes back to his character. Right now, he's wearing black and white clothes. He's got a white shirt on as well. So ultimately, he believes he's innocent, but maybe he's in two minds.
Egyptian reggae.
What's it matter to you?
Just think that he thinks he's better than us. He wants to sit there in his car, keep his white shirt clean while the rest of us, we roll in the dirt. One of these.
That was a good shot. I mean, again, good blocking. And done to the beat, might I add.
You're gonna get blood on your hands, and you're gonna find out that that shit don't wash off in the.
So that is another kind of big tell. Something that a lot of movies do is they plant something and then they pay off with it later. Quite often it's what's termed as the gun on the wall, where they'll show something that will end up being used later in the film as a surprise element. In this case, we've got John Bernthal. Does anyone know his name? For those who are watching? No? Alright, no worries. We've got John Bernthal, the guy who played the Punisher in the Netflix series, telling him that at some point he's going to get blood in his hands and it doesn't wash off. I think that that is a really important line. I think that really is also saying that Baby doesn't really recognize that he's dabbling. He's got his foot in a very dangerous game, and he is going to get burnt at some point. And he's kind of falling down this path.
Relax. The kid did his job, all right?
I ever say that the kid wasn't great at his job? Nah, I think he's a star.
Would I vouch for him if he wasn't?
Again, what a challenge. You know, he's really trying to test this guy's mettle. And it's, again, I think because the male characters, they feel uneasy around him because they don't know where to put him. They don't know what he stands for yet. And again, this comes back to he's wearing black and white clothing. So ultimately, he's an ambiguous character for them. And that probably makes them feel really unsafe. Excuse me. Coffee time, I think. All right, so let's skip on a little bit. We've got some interesting moments. Yes, elevator, fun, happy days. We realise that he's, you know, being swindled into being this driver. But ultimately, he's doing what he can for a elderly man who he's taking care of. So, you know, this is a nice way to say that ultimately he is a good person. He's a caring being. He gives a damn, as it were. But his own actions, he still doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. And again, he's wearing that white top still. But soon, things are going to change. So, we skip on a little bit. Or we skip on a lot. You know, your love interest, happy days, la 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 la. Okay, cool. He gets his next job. Okay, so this is 20 minutes and 53 seconds in. This is what you would term as the inciting incident. This is the next big job, and this is where things are going to change direction in the movie. And the reason I suggest that is it is roughly about 15% of the way in. what would be seen in a 90-minute movie at about 15 pages, but this is a 1 hour 50-minute movie, so it's about 110 minutes. It's about right, about 20 minutes, 21 minutes in, we've got our inciting incident, the next big job.
I'll be there.
Man, the soundtrack, you gotta love when movies nail the soundtrack. And even though a lot of these tracks I didn't know before this movie, they so nicely evoke the emotion that I think Edgar Wright was going for with this film that you just can't help but nod to it. I don't know, it's just me, probably.
Meet your new crew. Over here is Eddie No-Nose, formerly Eddie the Nose.
Well, what happened?
Don't ask me that. That's a no-nose, no-no, page 1.
Oh, side note, check out what these two fellas are wearing. I mean, colourful, to say the least, but not black or white. They are both wearing quite complex shirts. They're, neither of them would relate morally to Baby's current moral perspective. And we'll see that again in a little bit.
Over here is JD. He put the Asian in Home Invasion. And over there is the one and the only Bats.
No need for intros, Doc.
All right, so what Bats, played by Jamie Foxx, is wearing is so awesome. I mean, first of all, what a jumper. When I watched this, I couldn't help but laugh when I first saw it, with a big King of Hearts on the front of it. But as we will note throughout this movie, the color red pretty much denotes moral corruption and instability, really, psychological instability and murderous rage, basically. So, you know, the fact that he's wearing that, and that is his character's color as well. And he's the first character to wear red, and not just like any sort of red. It is a very saturated, bright red. So, one, we understand he's a confident character. I mean, especially with that knitted design with the king. Two, the king denotes that he really thinks, you know, he's the boss, and he basically can boss anyone else around and tell people what to do. Which, as we see, he is the kind of team leader, as it were.
Right from the toad to the trap.
It's your boy, right? It's the one who say listen to the music all the time?
Again, we get another macho confrontation between the two. He's trying to measure up where Baby Driver is. Who is he? Can he trust him?
Because you're supposed to be the eyes and the ears. Not just the eye.
Why is he listening to music all the time, Doc? He's got mental problems?
No. I'm the one who got the mental problems in the crew.
I mean, Edgar Wright's just like pointing at him, saying, he's going to be the problem character, guys. I mean, I didn't just put him in red for no reason. You know, he's the one you got to watch out for. And he's menacing. I mean, I didn't even kind of correlate him with the character from Collateral, the taxi driver who drove Tom Cruise around, who was an assassin, whereas he played like a mild-mannered taxi driver. Totally. I mean, Jamie Foxx's breadth as an actor is huge. Love it.
He had an accident when he was a kid. He's still got a hum in the drum. Plays music to drown it out.
Now, I would say that that's probably a little bit too much exposition for most. If I was doing this film, that moment would make me cringe, like badly cringe. But you know what? I'll let it go for now. It's Kevin Spacey. I'm back before Kevin Spacey became the Kevin Spacey that Hollywood won't touch.
Yeah, but you feel me.
So we get it. He's being confronted. They can't quite work him out yet. So what happens when his clothes change for the first time? So let's zip on a little bit. I'll find this moment for you. Cool. Here we go. So, as we can see, he has arrived at the location of the next robbery. And let's just quickly zip back a touch and we'll see what he's wearing. He's wearing the black and white jacket over the top of now a grey hoodie. So this really is going to denote more about his moral conflict. Not at this moment in the scene, but a little later in the scene.
Last night took the pants off the chair and emptied our wallets. They got what's rightfully ours.
You'll notice that the other two characters are getting hyped up. Baby is not. Baby is not even taking him on during his speech, trying to get the team revved up to go and steal the money from this armored truck.
Let's go get it back. What's rightfully ours.
So, again, you know, he wasn't playing music at this time, but he just wasn't listening to him. And we see here, Baby at this point, he's not looking quite so confident as he was in the first chase sequence. So if I just play on a little bit. He's looking tense, man. He's looking really tense. This job is really making him feel, you know, not comfortable. And he stops lip syncing to the music when he spots that the security guard is on the floor, potentially dead. And this is the moment where he recognizes that he has had a small part to play in the hurting or potentially killing of another human being. And this is probably, as we see from the shock in his face, the first time this has happened. And he's into driving mode. So you'll also notice he's wearing white gloves. Not black gloves, white gloves. The others are wearing latex gloves because obviously they're trying to deal with their fingerprints. But he's wearing driving gloves. That makes sense for his character, but again, with the white and the black theme. Zipping on, zipping on. Now we get to the point where they have finished their getaway. And one of the chaps who committed the robbery forgot his shotgun on one of the previous vehicles that they were driving in. This does not go well with the rest of the team at all, for those of you who remember. He ends up, you know, not getting to enjoy the spoils much. So as you see, we've got, again, the coffee run. This time, Edgar Wright. He knows the cinematic rules. He didn't show us the whole dance down the street again. But you also notice the colour of light. It's far less warm. Can you see this scene here? He's got the coffee again, but nowhere near as warm, as inviting as the previous coffee run that he went on. So definitely he's in a different mood. And Edgar Wright is trying to make sure that we feel, we can see and can reflect upon that mood change between the first bank robbery and the second bank robbery. And as you can see now, yeah, so the third member of the team is long gone. Now, after their debrief and the splitting of the money, this is the last time, supposedly, Baby is meant to have to run, well, be the getaway driver for this man. He's paid his debt. He's paid his dues. And now he has to do one last job for him, which is find a way of getting rid of the body of the chap who made the mistake during the robbery. And you see, he's left with this heavy moral weight on his shoulders. He has to hide the body of a murdered man. Now, again, now it's getting deeper than just a getaway driver for him. So we see that in this case, he has the car crushed to hide the evidence. and that doesn't sit with him well. So he definitely wants to get out. Absolutely. But I would say that that's had some moral effect on him. And you'll see in the next scene, when we see that he's trying to move on, skip on a touch, he tries to go straight. You see when he changes his clothes. Now, if you notice, that shirt isn't looking quite as white as it did the first time that we saw him in this apartment with this old man earlier in the film. It's darker now. That probably was definitely a creative decision. And now you see him in red. He has guilt on him. He's done something that has caused him to feel like he's become a part of something that was morally wrong. I love the fact that they use sign language in this film. And now, the next change, we see him in full black. But if you remember, he's gone completely straight from the entire kind of criminal life. So he stood next to a vehicle that's very reminiscent of a lot of the mafia movies from the 80s. I don't know, that screams Goodfellas to me. And he's dressed in head to toe black. Now, unfortunately, we have a psychological awareness, a cinematic language awareness of the use of black and white. It's been ingrained in us over years and years of being told, even in the Bible, same thing. Angels and demons, good and bad, generally tend to be given the color denotation of white and black. Unfortunately, in this case, he's gone on the straight and narrow, but he's wearing black. So in a way, Edgar Wright, I believe, is saying he's been corrupted, even though he has become, well, quote unquote, on the straight and narrow. He's not just yet. And of course, Edgar Wright can't leave him in, happiness for that long. He goes out for his first meal. I mean, he didn't even give him, a chance to enjoy a normal life. And across from him is, of course, his old boss, who brings him back into the fold. So, skipping on a touch now, he's back in the game. And if you see, he's now wearing a darker inner jumper with the black and white jacket on again. So we're getting progressively darker in terms of his clothing. I believe the production designer for this and the costume designer even stated that they started to try and add in hues of red into his clothing as well. So if you do spot it, do give me a shout, because I haven't spotted it yet. So we skip on the touch and we get to the third gig. And yes, Bats, Jamie Foxx is back again in full red. I mean, if it wasn't obvious that it's not J. Edgar Hoover. Why do I keep saying that? Edgar Wright wants to, it's obvious that Edgar Wright wants to make sure that the characters have a very specific tone associated with them, but they also play into a very specific character type. And although Jamie Foxx's character might be seen as almost stereotypical, because of the type of movie, it actually works, which I think is actually totally brilliant. If you remember Collateral, even Tom Cruise's character, who plays a completely morally corrupt assassin, has a code, a moral code, a stipulation to what he's doing and why he's doing it. And in this film, we don't necessarily get to know that about the characters, but because of the style of the film, this is where I think form and function come to create something more than just the sum of its parts. Really, really come into play. So again, so we play on a little bit.
Now, he bought it a little later. It had nothing to do with the heist.
Do all your stories end up with somebody dying?
Guess you just gotta find out, huh?
I mean, scripting, man. Throughout this movie, Edgar Wright just keeps on pointing at the fact that people are gonna die, and Baby is gonna be involved in that somehow, and he's gonna get closer and closer and closer to it throughout the film. So they're getting ready for the next big score. This is going to be the one that I think they're all pretty excited by. But as you can see, this is probably the moment where we see Baby looking the least pleased about being there. He definitely is woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. Man, the music. All right, so let's skip on a touch, because we've got to get to the next point in which his clothes change. And this is really about a moral choice that he has to make, because we already understand that his clothes are getting darker. Okay, so he's getting deeper and deeper, closer to feeling like his actions are having bad consequences on people. And we have a big shootout here, instigated by Bats, Mr. Reds, if we weren't sure that he wasn't a bad person already. And we get to the big day itself. Let's skip on a touch. The actual bank heist itself. Now, I'm not going to show you the point in which the chap was shot, because, you know, it's extra gore for no particular reason at this particular point. But we see Baby Driver wearing shades again, which is fine. We've seen him in shades before. He's in his, again, black and white jacket. And he's being told to move. Okay, we know what's about to happen here. Again, it's blood and gore for the sake of it. I'm not going to show it. But he drives the car into those poles. And he makes a moral decision to kill this man. The actions of Bats throughout the film, the actions of him being involved in these chases and getting closer and closer to these murders, and witnessing Bats as a person, witnessing his moral choices throughout, has caused him to make a decision to kill him, because he recognizes that with him as a getaway driver, he will get away and do it again and probably kill someone else or many other people. So he makes a decision now to do something that he's never done before, and that is take someone's life. He's almost always shown some sort of concern for everyone around him, but this is the first character he has no empathy for. All right, we don't need to see it. Let me skip on a touch. So he now goes on the run. As you can see, still in his same clothes. And he gets to a store and steals some clothes. And this is the first time we see him actually wearing something of colour outside of the pizza job he had. So you can see things have changed for him. He's now willing to break his moral code that he had at the beginning of the film, that he was, well, basically untouchable. And even though he's on the run, he's willing to do anything to stay on the run. He hasn't fully broken his character flaw, which is basically that he's constantly running from his responsibilities. We skip on a touch more. He continues his run. I mean, it's a long run. I would be really out of breath by now. You know. Love it. But as you can see, He's in blue. Where did he get that screwdriver from? That was rather handy. Whatever, it's all good. Anyway, so he's getting away. Unfortunately, the girl dies. And well, John Hamm is not best pleased about it. That'll come back to kick him in the ass a little later. And as we see a little later on from here, he changes yet again. So you see he's in his blue denim jacket here, and he changes. He's in a green top now. Now this is really important because he didn't choose to go back to probably a grey, black or white top. He chose to be in a colour. And as we've associated coloured clothes with characters who understand that they are criminals, he is now starting to understand that he is a criminal. Although he's still on the run, he is a criminal. And he's accepted it, I think. Which I think is really, really important when we get down towards the end of the movie. So we're going to scrub on a little bit. The ramifications of the last bank robbery means that John Hamm is not best pleased with him. And they have a bit of a car chase. You know, standard affair. And John Hamm comes out of nowhere with a pretty dangerous looking vehicle. You know, he's obviously stolen a police vehicle. And here we have it yet again. This time, yes, he isn't wearing it, but he's bathed in it, so it's basically the same. Bathed in red light. You'll notice, however, in the previous shot, I'm pretty sure his face is not looking that red in that shot. So maybe a little bit of continuity there. Next shot, you know. That's very red. Okay, that really would have shown up from the outside of the car, in my opinion, my humble opinion. But that's okay because I think it's really cool. I mean, it looks amazing, and I love it when directors use really strong colors to denote feelings. It's very Kubrick. He would use really strong, very saturated colors throughout his films. Green, quite often with Kubrick movies, would denote death. In this case, red is absolutely Edgar's denotation for death. So yeah, we're not gonna watch the rest of that. But, I mean, again, look, Baby is bathed in blue, which is the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the color wheel, if you can imagine that, to John Hamm's character, who's in the vehicle bathed in red, and we can see that in the wing mirror, which is such a nice shot and was probably quite tricky to make that work really well, because obviously you can see at the bottom of the frame where the light source is coming from, where they put the LED lighting to make sure that the red is hitting John in the face. So we're just going to skip on a little bit, even more, loads of red. And again, we see Baby and his car, no red in the car. So again, he's not trying to kill, he's just trying to survive at this point. Love it, absolutely love it. Let's skip on a touch, and we see again, look, he's bathed in red again. So much color on him as well. Baby is, you know, his vehicle, no color in it, no, you know, no tons, not a huge amount of saturation and colors. They're not, both of them aren't wearing very vibrant clothes. We skip on a little bit. We get to the point where we see Baby's shirt, and I think this is an important point. Again, I mean, John Hamm is just basically lit by a red light for the entire movie at the moment. Very similar to probably the red light that's behind me, actually. It's very, very, very similar tone. Yeah, pretty close. John Hamm not looking best pleased right now. Certainly not the Mad Men look that he took. Oof. And we see at the end of this, come on, where is he? Oh, can't quite see it. I might have to skip into another area. Yeah, here we go. Can you see? You got Baby's character here. He's just pushed John Hamm's character off the ledge, or he thinks he has, but he didn't spot that, well, there are red lights still on around him, so of course danger is still there. John Hamm survived. Now John Hamm is covered in blood, so again he's still kind of wearing red, but if we just go back a touch, you'll also notice that there are 2 red dots on his top, just here and here. We'll see them again later, but if you remember back at the beginning of the movie, John Bernathal's character says at some point you're going to get blood on your hands and it won't wash off. I'm pretty sure blood on a light coloured, although it is grey, a light coloured top probably won't come out, but you know, white wine and vinegar, I think.
You took something away from me that I love.
Love it. So we move on and we see again his character at this point. They're on the run, but he's not running. He wakes up, she's driving, and this is the point where he makes his next moral choice, as it were. It's a really nice touching story, actually, that he has a recording of his mother that he carries around with him. Just so you know, having my own tinnitus, you know, you don't automatically get, you know, super awesome touch feel. I can hear things through my fingers sensation. I wish I could. It'd be kind of cool, but you know, whatever. So this is the point at which we see Baby have his next moral decision, and this is the point in which we get to see his next costume change as well. He decides in this moment no longer to run, to take responsibility for his actions, which is just, it's just awesome. I love it. See, he stops her from trying to run, also implicating herself. And he still has that blood on his shirt. That's definitely dried in now. That ain't coming out. Alright, kissy smooch. And as he's made this choice, he knows he's going to jail. He's got those dots of blood. I didn't see 3 dots on his shirt earlier. I'm sure they got it right though. And immediately the change. Grey shirt with blood on it. He's taken responsibility for his actions. He has accepted that he's going to go to jail. He's not going to get off lightly. And now he's not in an orange jumpsuit, grey. He's in a white prison jumpsuit. And again, I think this is actually a very strong directorial decision to show that he is washing himself of his past sins by accepting the punishment for those sins.
I believe the defendant is of good character. He didn't deserve what happened to him.
It was the strangest thing. He finally drove off, and he threw my purse right at me.
Oh, don't forget to chuck a comment if you'd like to see any other shows, films, or anything like that analyzed in the next few weeks. I do episodes on Thursdays. They're long episodes. I do episodes on Sundays, which are nice and short, very, very quick episodes when you're on your, you know, quick lunch break. And then also I am adding in a live every Friday now where we're going to go over a different film or TV show each week. So you'll see on Tuesdays, I'm going to put a poll out on Instagram as well as YouTube, where you'll get the chance to also have your say in which shows that I analyze on Fridays lives. And also, I'm totally open to anyone who has questions or anything that they'd like to discuss with me in the chat below as well.
Then he actually said, I'm sorry.
He looked at me and he shook his head.
Now, they do state that he goes to jail for 5 years. I would say that he doesn't look 5 years old when he gets out. But, you know, you'll also notice, you know, in his cell here, he's in a white cell. Later on, white cell again. It's looking a little brighter this time, though. So you might think that maybe he's feeling less guilty for his actions at this point. And that would be purely down to a cinematic choice. And we see now he's gotten out. And you'll notice very clearly a very obvious creative decision. He went in wearing a grey shirt with 3 bloody dots in it. He's come out with a pristine white shirt. Again, I mean, this is obvious stuff, but he feels morally clean of everything that he did before. And we can only hope that he is also, you know, clean of doing this again, you know, finding his way back into trouble. Unfortunately, that car, it's red on the inside, it's white on the outside. Cinema smooch. Hit each other's heads as hard as possible and hope the lips land in the right spot. That's how to do it. What a movie. So I think Edgar Wright really does a fantastic job in leading us along psychologically, subconsciously, with Baby's moral compass journey as he becomes a character that is able to own up to his own actions and also see the world for the moral ambiguity, the moral decisions that aren't necessarily good or bad, they are right. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed this live session, and I do hope to do more live sessions in the future. So do put a comment down below, like if you enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to seeing you soon.